Sometimes you didn't have to put anything in your mouth at all, apart from maybe water. But again, boredom, stress, where your focus is, what your emotional response is. So maybe your emotional response to stress, to upset, to heartbreak, to pain in your life, the emotional action that you used was food, which is a legit fucking thing. This is how way more people get into the obesity realm than this world's willing to admit.
Again, we say it. Calorie deficit is important. Progressive overload is important. I agree, and this is why. And I know I sound like I've been the unempathetic prick out of the two of us today, but most people get fat because of struggles, mental, physical, emotional struggles. So you need to create solutions for people. You need to empathize with people, and I think that's getting lost. So in this episode, I wanted to go a little bit into low carb and low calorie dieting. And this was kind of inspired a little bit by a few posts that I've seen recently about people saying like 6-week challenges will ruin your physique and there's no place for the crash diet and there's no place for low carb. So to open this, I wanted to use this episode as if you're someone going through a low calorie part, a grind part of the diet, we're going to offer some solutions to help you with that. Some hacks that we found from doing this. But to begin with, we're going to talk low carb, low calorie. When is it good? When is it not? So to start off with, Rob, do you think there is a place for a low carb phase in dieting?
Phase, that's the key word. Yes. Low carb phase, maybe more than one low carb phase. Multiple reasons for it. I do not believe in low carb long term. I've tried it myself, and that's anecdotal. But there have been clients where I've seen decent results on a longer term low carb phase again. But I've seen just as good results with people that never gave up carbs to begin with. And there's things we can look at: overall lifestyle, amount of protein, activity, etc. Stress levels, things like that. But the type of carb also being kind of important too at the same time. So if you can get the same results or similar results without needing to go low carb, there's not much of an argument for going low carb. But there are, which we're going to discuss, there are pros to going low carb, of course. But it's not a one size fits all approach. That's the important thing to remember here.
I think what you've essentially just said, you've seen people get in great shape with low carbs, and you've seen people get in shape with lots of carbs. It's like, doesn't that just add credence to the fact that calorie deficits is what matters, right? Like in a world now where this is sort of getting the fads coming out again. You know, keto, high carb, low carb, Atkins, fasting. There are people that get in shape with all of them. And it's sort of like, okay, what's good for that client that is in front of me right now? What suits their lifestyle? And I think what a lot of people don't take into account is like, there's optimal and there's practical, right? People like to fight optimal online. But if my diet plan being low carb means it's easier for them to get into a calorie deficit without having to think too much, it minimizes margin for error, and it makes up for the fact they might go out and break their diet every now and again because there's a bigger... Well, depending on how big the deficit is, because low carb doesn't necessarily mean low deficit, but usually it does. It gives a bit of leeway. And I think people are trying to find this diet that someone can 100% stick to all the time. And sometimes the one that someone can stick to is a diet that accounts for the fact that your client won't be 100% on it all the time.
Yeah, that's so key. So key. It's, again, it's the best diets are the ones that you kind of enjoy, because depending on your goal, there has to be an element of, I loathe to use the term suffering because it's not fucking suffering. It's dealing with hunger and a bit of low energy, depending how low you want to get in body fat. If you want to get in shoot shape, stage shape, then yes, there's going to be some issues with energy and overall zest for life at certain points, because you will then have to be on a very, very low amount of food. But that's not relevant for the general population that are looking to drop. Maybe 20, 30 pounds tops, maybe more. But depending on what you want the end result to look like, the diet can then change. So a big thing to remember as well is, big problem with the industry right now is people that have got in shoot shape or stage shape that now preach their methods as the general population method. And it's not the fucking case. Like, we're going to talk about low carb and low calorie hacks that probably aren't relevant for someone that's just going into a very, very slight deficit because they've got a real struggle in their history of dieting, or they've never dieted before, or they really need, a deeper education first and see some consistency. So you might only put them into a very, very, very slight deficit, or their activity is through the fucking roof. So in which case, some of those things aren't relevant for them. But we have to remember, there's different stages of the journey, and at each different stage of the journey, there has to be potentially a different phase you move into, similar to your training. Training's not going to stay the same from day 1 to day 365. You can go through different phases, so why wouldn't you do that with your diet as well? So there's no 100% consistent diet. There's no one size fits all, of course.
Yeah.
But there's many things that work for many, many people.
I think there's a lot of the issue here is that people confuse the word sustainability with habits. And I'll elaborate on that, because that doesn't necessarily sound that it makes sense. But people now want this diet that is going to be sustainable. So, like, how do I set somebody up now with a diet that they're going to feel they can do for 5 years? And I'm like, well, a lot of what you consider sustainable now is based off the habits you currently have and the comfort zone that you're currently in. So, like, is there an element of, like, if you want to get out of these habits, you're going to, no matter what you do, it's going to be somewhat uncomfortable. What's sustainable right now could be your 2 chocolate bars in the evening, your 3 times a week piss up with the boys, a Deliveroo every single evening. If that's what you class as sustainable, then you're never going to find a diet that works for you. Now, whereas if you go through a period of time where look, let's get some structure in place. It's going to be harder, but let's get you through your 8, 10, 12, 16-week diet. And obviously we don't want to make it horrible. We want to make it tailor it over time more and more to you and your current lifestyle. Yeah. But when you get to the end goal, then it's like, well, what do you want back? And let's say we had that person who had a couple of chocolate bars in the evening, had 3 piss-ups with the boys, had a Deliveroo 4 nights a week. By the time at the end, they may just want 1 drink with the boys on a Saturday night. And they may want, like, 1 date night with a partner. That's what the sustainable is, because now what you truly value is important, because you can go, right, I've missed this. I want this back in my life. Whereas a lot of that stuff was just habitual, that you felt you couldn't go without your caffeine, or you couldn't go without your chocolate bar, or you couldn't go without this. It was just what you've been doing, rather than necessarily something that is a non-negotiable needs to stay in.
No, massively so. I want to say Mark Twight said this. I can't remember for the life of me where I read this. But it's been a game changer for me in terms of how I look at things, in terms of programming for myself, diets for clients, well, in terms of everything, every area of life, really. Where he said, I swear it was Mark Twight, and I'm sorry if it wasn't. But I also know a lot of people trying to lay claim to this quote that are completely fucking off the mark and don't even understand it. But what's optimal isn't always sustainable. So you've got to find the balance, right? The thing that you can sustain for a little bit might not be 100% optimal in terms of reaching your goal, but it's just right for your environment and your lifestyle at that time, with some slight changes in there to make sure you're actually going to see some sort of progress. But in terms of what is 100% optimal for 100% of the population to lose weight, isn't sustainable for every single person to do.
I would add to that because I think what's optimal isn't sustainable. But if you put optimal sort of like in the middle of this spectrum, what's optimal may not be sustainable, but what's optimal is also not always practical.
Yes,
so
exactly.
We've got to scale this back. This is the same argument I have when people want recipes. 2 reasons why I don't like recipes. 1, you don't want my recipes. I'm a crap cook. 2, like I get it. People assume that diets are going to be boring. We're conditioned to think that way, and sometimes they are because people are too comfortable where every meal's got to taste like a Gordon Ramsay Michelin-star restaurant where it's a Wednesday in between meetings. Sometimes you just got to get you by. And some meals have got to be nice, right? Like people say food is for fuel, not for enjoyment. Yeah. I don't want to hang out with those people. But at the same time, people that feel like every meal has to be a taste sensation, you're living a pipe dream. So, we've got to find this sort of middle ground where some meals are just going to be fine. Some, like just in life, some days are just fine. Most days are just fine. And then there's some like blow your socks off, incredible sort of meals. So when we're looking at practicality, right, it's people go, oh, well, maybe what's my low carb pizza? And then I'm going to have this high protein, low carb carbonara. I'm like, okay, cool. Have you got 6 hours a day to prepare your food? Like, if you do, you'll get it done for 4 days and you'll crash and burn. Yeah. I would rather simplicity over quote unquote in taste bud sustainability
100%.
any day of the week.
100%. This is why anything I ever do share with my clients in terms of recipes, which is rare, because again, like, I think this is one of the issues with meal plans as well, right? A generic meal plan for everyone is going to work for a very, very small percentage of people. A individualized meal plan has a huge increase in percentage of chance of it working, right? Because it's individual. Recipe guides, I might go through a recipe guide and find 2 things out of 20 that I actually that I'm actually going to enjoy eating. But everything I give to my clients in terms of recipes is real food and a real meal that is not going to take you long to fucking make, that you can probably make double of and it's not going to go bad the next day. The big issue I see with the industry doing now is these hack guides. Here's how you can make 20 fakeaways that mean you have to order 20 different ingredients on Amazon because you can't get this stuff in Tesco. And I'm not being funny. It's not going to taste as good. It's not going to be as good in terms of consistency, in terms of like how it actually feels in your mouth, because we notice these differences. It's going to be shit. I don't give a fuck if ex-competitive Tina or Tony have a My Protein discount that they want to, you know, max out their affiliate earnings, and they're showing you, here's how you can make protein cinnamon buns that taste as good as the real thing. You're lying. You're absolutely lying. It's never going to taste as good as the real thing. It's going to cost you more to make the real thing. Never. I had a Protein Mars once when they first came out, and I went, this is shit.
Does Protein House, Haus, still exist in London?
I believe, I could be wrong. That could be long gone. I could be wrong though.
Like that was the thing. Oh my god, a protein Yorkie, and I just realised that some of these things are more calories, and I'm just like, yeah, why don't you have a protein shake and a Yorkie? It's the same calories as this protein Yorkie. So why would I not? Why would I have the inferior product and I have to spend more time doing it, especially if I make it myself? Yeah,
exactly. What are you going to enjoy more? What are you going to feel more rewarded by doing? No one eats a protein bar and goes, that was amazing. I feel so satisfied. My sweet tooth is curbed. I feel like I've made a smart choice towards my diet. When you can educate people how to have that Yorkie and a protein source as well and feel exactly the same, or feel better than matey who's lying about his protein bar, because no one actually enjoys eating them.
I'm going to sound like a drill sergeant.
PhD bars.
Yeah. PhD bars, all right, but I'm going to sound like a drill sergeant. Here when I say this, and like I also think you have to earn the right to curb a craving. Now, anyone sitting on the fence, you know, that wants to work with me online, and I'll probably like put off the idea. But in a way, good, because if you're going to come and bitch about curbing cravings within the first 20 minutes, then I probably don't want you anyway. And but because it's this thing of like, oh well, I need to curb that craving. Cool. Run me through your day. Right? Oh, I haven't eaten any vegetables in 20 years. Cool. So how much protein do you have? 6 grams of protein. I'm like, okay. So let's look at why you have the craving first. You're ravenously hungry. You're on 3 hours sleep a night. You know, you haven't spent any time with anyone that isn't a work colleague in 15 years. Okay. Yeah, cool. So yes, the problem is you don't have a PhD smart bar. You sort your shit out first.
Fuck. Mate, it's so fucking true. But I see, if I walk around the city...
I will say, just to give a caveat before you say your point.
Go on.
I'm not saying that I'm this perfect person that never has cravings. But I never have a craving. I never go to the shops and buy a 6-pack of Kinder Buenos and wolf down the lot and sit there and go, what I need? I need a protein shake curbing of that craving. That's what... Next time, if I have a protein bar, I won't have that chocolate. What I'll go is like, what was the trigger for that chocolate bar? And I always take ownership of whether I fix it or not. We all have our struggles, 100%. Like, I understand I'm not saying I don't give a fuck about why you overeat on chocolate, but I'm saying is like, you're lying to yourself if you think it's going to be curbed by a sweet replacement. You're just trying to put a plaster over a bullet hole.
Massively. And you have to remember, these cravings aren't just necessarily coming from something related to your food. It can just be habitual, or it can be through pure fucking boredom. So in which case, that smart bar or whatever choice you're going to go for, again, isn't going to do it, because you've not fixed the habit and you've not fixed the environment. You're just trying to, again, like that plaster analogy is absolutely fucking perfect. You're trying to then, right, okay, let's, what's the tiniest thing I can do that makes me feel like I'm moving forward, which is not going to move the needle at all. It's not going to change the percentage of your result. It's not. If you look at the absolute leanest individuals on the planet, which would be stage competitive bodybuilders, like in terms of low body fat, I don't mean in terms of lean and healthy, I just mean in terms of low in body fat. Those guys aren't living off of protein bars and protein hacks and things like that. They're still getting the large majority of their diet through actual whole foods. No one at any point needs to live off of these hacks, which a lot of the industry is promoting almost as a fucking lifestyle. If it fits your macros, it was terrible for that.
Yeah,
creating all these fake away recipes. And
I'd love to see. There will never be this, but I'd love to see statistics of people who buy protein bars. How many people are buying protein bars with the idea of fitting them within a well-balanced macronutrient plan, and how many people are buying protein bars so they have the sensation that they're doing something positive for their health, and actually not even paying attention to their calories and their activity whatsoever. I think protein bars are, and I like the occasional protein bar, but I think protein bars are often, and I've done this. I've had a protein bar. Well, fine, I have my protein in it, and it's me kidding myself, so I understand this. Yeah. Like, I think protein bars are the biggest sort of fake diet food ever, because they're justifying people's bad behavior. They're like people out trying to, well, I did 30 minutes of cardio so I can go and have my pizza. Yeah. Protein bars are the same.
And ridiculously overpriced. £3.50 in some shops for a fucking grenade bar for 20 grams of protein. That doesn't work out right at all. Like, if you think, okay, right, so an actual bag of protein is obviously a bit more expensive, but for your 30 grams, you're probably breaking that down to under a pound. So to then go and get a heavily marketed, pretty poor nutrition-wise 20-gram serving of protein and pay over £3 for it, or £2.75 is the cheapest I fucking see it in the shops, doesn't add up. And then, you know, we can push the argument that healthy food is more expensive, but it's not healthy food. It's really not fucking healthy food. It's not something you would live off. But again, it gives you that illusion that you're doing something right. How many girls I see in the city first thing in the morning, and I'm not going to exclusively limit it to the girls. I see the guys pretty much making worse choices. How many girls turn up to these, what would you call them, pseudo health food, fast food stores, and get their acai bowl, or however the fuck you pronounce it, I don't give a fuck, get their acai bowl that is like 800 calories and fuck all protein, and a giant fucking latte, which is 800 calories, fuck all protein, and walk away going, I've made a healthy, smart choice this morning, and then wonder why they've got no fucking energy, wonder why their skin's shit, wonder why they're irritable and they're not sleeping, and wonder why they're hungry again at fucking 11 a.m. So what will they do? That quick morning break, they're out in Sainsbury's, Tesco, scrambling for those stupid fucking protein sources that are piss poor, when their entire day and their entire environment could have been so much different if they just made a smarter choice for their breakfast alone. But they don't. It just creates this knock-on environment.
Is hunger something to be avoided when dieting?
I think you'd have a tough fucking time getting into a calorie deficit effectively if you tried and avoided hunger whilst on a diet. No, it's a natural. Let's not forget, hunger is a natural, based on two hormones, right? Hunger is an actual signal in your body that is kind of essential. If you never feel hunger, one or two things is happening. You're eating too much, or that hormone's fucked. In which case, you've got a lot of fucking work to do.
For people who don't understand the two hormones, that I'm going to go. There's technically three, and there's that hormones that do it. And just a very quick overview, because I've taught this twice in the last week to people, so to two groups of people, so I can condense it. So, what people think our body fat are unsightly things that are just on our gut or on our sides. But our adipose cells, which is where our fat is, our adipose tissue, is a fully fledged endocrine organ, and they produce a hormone called leptin. Now, people think leptin is a hunger hormone. Leptin isn't a hunger hormone. Leptin is your body's gossip queens. Right? It's the best analogy I've ever had. So imagine here, right? Rob's got, let's say Rob spent 6 months, although he is looking chiseled today, I must say. You know, Rob spent 6 months overeating, and he's got a love handle, right? And he's fatter than you. He's set points. We can talk set points another day. And so that means there's loads of leptin, loads of gossipines being produced. And they'll go up to the hypothalamus in the brain, and they'll basically go, look how fat Rob is. And the brain's like, fuck this shit, man. I don't like the fact that they're gossiping about Rob. So he's going to send the bouncers ghrelin and NPY, right, our hunger hormones. Right, ghrelin and NPY are going to ramp up hunger, and that's like the bouncers coming and chucking these leptin gossip queens out the house. Right, so so ghrelin and NPY will sort of go down if someone's really fat to make sure their appetite's controlled, and their thyroid will go up to kind of kick some of these girls out, kick some of these gossip queens out. Gossip queens could be guys, let's say that. Guy. And then
this is terrible. Gossip guys are even worse.
Gossip thems. So the gossip thems, right? So lots of gossip thems talk to the brain. Brain goes, fuck this. He brings hunger down, brings thyroid up to bring you back to within your set point. Now let's say Rob then goes on a diet and he's now got less body fat, and the brain's sitting there going, well, I haven't had any gossip thems come and chat to me for a while. Like it's a bit quiet. I don't like this. It's a bit eerie. So what he'll do is he'll slow thyroid down and then ramp up ghrelin and NPY to make you more hungry and eat more food to get you back within your set point. This is why people will get hungry, and it's one of the reasons why it's healthier to be slightly hungry when you go into a diet, is making sure this works well. Now, I know what some of you guys listening to this are going to think. You're going to think, well, why is it that I turn on TV and watch these American documentaries, these massively morbidly obese people, and they're eating 12 breakfasts? I was like, well, that's what we call leptin resistance. So that's like all these gossip thems. There's loads of them, right? Because they're morbidly obese. Have massive amounts of gossip thems going to the hypothalamus and like knocking on the door, shouting, all this sort of stuff. And it's like the hypothalamus has put on his noise-cancelling headphones. He's locked the door and he's like, right, I'm fed up of this. I'm just going to turn them off and not listen to them. So then eventually, as he's not listening for long enough, the brain goes, I'm not hearing anything. There's obviously not many gossip thems knocking on the door, but there is because you can't hear them. So he reacts like they're lean, even though they're not lean. That got you, didn't it? But that's an overview of a politically correct overview of leptin and ghrelin and NPY.
So at first I was worried because you were misgendering hormones that are not gender specific at all. Everyone has NPY, leptin and ghrelin and insulin. But then the fact that you corrected yourself and took ownership and continuously used gossip them without a second thought or the blink of an eye.
I thought I had to, so I can join Sam Smith as a fisher then.
You've justified yourself. Like, I love it. You brought us back from the brink of being cancelled then. We're fine now.
Yeah,
heroes.
God forbid, gossip thems. So that's understanding hunger. And I think going back to the point, I think hunger there's a difference between hunger and starving.
Yes.
If you're starving on a diet, this is something we need to work on. And we need to look at things that will help this. We can go over this in a second. But I think some people, they're so used to, I'm a bit hungry, I'll go grab something. It's that comfort factor. Bang, I've got it. It's in the routine. It's in the diary. It's not in the diary, but it's in the fridge. It's in the cupboards. It's whatever. So teach people just to, look, you're on a diet. Sit with it. If you end up ravenously hungry, we can talk this. We can solve this issue. But like, you're on a diet, you're going to be a little bit hungry. And being able to sit with that and being okay with that is a huge positive skill, I think.
Yeah. It takes you away from impulse. Because you have to remember the hunger, you're not going to die. You're not going to die. You're just on a diet. I know diet's in the fucking word. Some liberal trainer will say, oh, this is why they call it diet, because you can die. No, you're not going to die. Like, because you're on a calorie controlled, I'm just going to use the word diet because I like it. You're on a calorie controlled diet, which, if you've chosen the right fucking coach to begin with, is going to sufficiently supply you with all the food that you need for optimal hormonal environment, depending how lean you're going to get, and sustain your life and your enjoyment and keep everything ticking over nicely, right? And what you're going to start noticing is signals that your body's always been sending since the moment you were born, that you silenced through your habits, your choices, your environment, etc., that can be curbed without just instantly reaching for food. Because again, that That's the impulsive behavior that got you to where you were, when there's multiple ways you could have dealt with that hunger signal without reaching for food. Sometimes you didn't have to put anything in your mouth at all, apart from maybe water. But again, boredom, stress, where your focus is, what your emotional response is, what your instant, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, well, yeah, same thing. Like an emotional response creates an emotional action. So maybe your emotional response to stress, to upset, to heartbreak, to pain in your life, the emotional action that you used was food, which is a legit fucking thing. This is how way more people get into the obesity realm than this world's willing to admit.
Yes,
because we like to pretend that these people aren't suffering. They fucking are. So,
and that's why
some
I hate
people choose.
Yeah, that's why I hate the people who, like, just again. We say it, calorie deficit is important, progressive overload is important. I agree, and this is why. And I know I sound like I've been the unempathetic prick out of the two of us today, but I hate it when people just say calorie deficit, calorie deficit. Yes, no shit, Sherlock, but like people don't get fat because they show. Like, there are the occasional big and beautiful person, but like most people get fat because of struggles, mental, physical, emotional struggles. So you need to create solutions for people. You need to empathize with people, and I think that's getting lost.
Yeah, I know, just flipping topic slightly, but the big issue I have with the American Medical Association changing the definition of obesity to a disease takes away some sort of ownership, because no one wakes up obese the next morning. It's a journey, right? But it certainly causes, as you get more and more overweight and into the obese category, it certainly creates disease-like factors within your body to the point where, yes, this condition you're in now could be considered like a disease, because there's a lot of things you're going to have to do to reverse it, and you are at severe risk of increased health factors and, well, pretty much death. I read an amazing thing yesterday. I never knew this, that the 5 points over 25 on the BMI scale, for every additional 5 points you go over 25, you have an increased risk of 39% higher chance of death every 5 points you go over. It's an additional 39% each time. So if someone's up at 45 on the BMI scale, that's a ticking time bomb, right? It's fucking terrifying. But I digress. The issue with then getting...
Before you digress, because I think that's interesting in terms about BMI scale. I know it's a different topic, but I want to throw a caveat out there, because a lot of coaches listen to us, and a lot of coaches are going to say, well, BMI is rubbish because people have got more muscle mass, like, are going to be clinically like obese or overweight. And while I will incline to agree with that person to a level, in terms of sometimes it's a bit skewed. Rich Piana, think of there's a lot of things going on, right? But how many bodybuilders have died of heart attacks, which people are going to lay down to drugs, but how much of it's fact that they are that level of points over their BMI scale in a completely different way, that level of weight on the heart has an impact, whether you get it through muscle mass or obesity. I know that's a different topic what you're talking about, but I just think it's an important caveat.
It's
BMI in the middle ground is a bit dicey, right? People slightly underweight and people slightly overweight, but at the extremes, regardless of body composition, there's validity here.
Massively so. It's let's say it's entry level, right? It's entry level. So, like, you could say, well, calorie counting doesn't work, but it's just one method to get you into a calorie deficit. And to be fair, for some people, maybe it's not the first thing they do. Maybe they have to build on their habits and their food choices first that will lead to a calorie deficit that can lead to fat loss over time. But that doesn't mean calorie counting, should be thrown out of the window as the method. So it doesn't mean we throw BMI out of the method. If you really want to understand these people who do go, well, my BMI was 30 and I'm, fucking jacked. Well, it doesn't mean you're absent of obesity like risk factors. So again, this is all in America because Britain's fucking 20 years behind everyone else. The AAC, I forget which one it is. I forget which one it is. A couple of years ago, with the Nadolsky brothers, actually reclassified what they use for the BMI going forward. So they've got the BMI as the entry level, and then they have different stages: stage 0, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, etc. And
like hypertension.
in hypertension, just like hypertension. And with stage 0, it's your outside of the BMI with no obesity-related health factors, no high blood pressure, no high cholesterol, no sign of fatty liver disease, no sign of no sign of any of these factors. Right? That's stage 0, but you're outside of that BMI. So it takes the initial diagnosis, the initial assessment, but puts the individual at play. Right? Because you can calculate your BMI online and it means nothing. Now it puts the individual at play. And then through the different stages, suddenly we're starting to see increased risk. But it doesn't mean that in stage 0 that you can just stay there. Nadolsky spoke about this himself very recently on a podcast of his I was listening to, where he was like pretty jacked as a wrestler. And his BMI was like way over 28, maybe even above 30. And he was pretty lean, considered himself to be pretty healthy. But when he thinks back to it, he had severe sleep apnea that was all related to the amount of weight he was carrying. That's an obesity-related factor. Like, that's not even stage 0. That's stage 1. So, yeah, we can then start going deeper down this for the people that want to cry BMI is not relevant because because apparently the UK population is jacked. So we need to not fucking worry about it. You're forgetting. It's just a fucking tool, right? It's just a tool.
That's what all in terms of making us break on the show.
But in terms of, I've just remembered it because I went on, that was such a tangent. But we can then think, right, okay, so these signals, it's not just also based on your habits, your decisions, your environment. There is a lot of hormone-related actions and responses that are created by this. So I think, and if anyone can correct me on this, please fucking do, because when it comes to this level of hormonal knowledge, mine compared to Simon's is fuck all, absolutely fuck all. But I believe in terms of low NPY, increased the amount of anxiety, I believe.
It would make sense.
So therefore, when you're high in anxiety, what are you going to try and do? You're going to reach for comfort things.
And if you also look at things like,
which creates another hormonal response.
If you also think insulin cortisol have an inverse relationship as well, right? So in particular, high periods of high stress, right. The reason why we go for sugary foods is that when cortisol goes up, insulin tends to go down. Which makes sense, as one's a storage hormone, one's a breaking down hormone, right? So
it's balanced. They dance with each other. It's something you've got to consider, but obviously if you're just looking to lose a few pounds, don't go too deep down the rabbit hole. But you have to recognise that, again, it's not just one. There is no one size fits all. There really fucking isn't. You know?
Bringing this back to the low calorie, low carb argument. We're going to go low calorie first. Yeah. When are the times where going on a grind and pushing calories hard, pushing a big deficit, when is that a good thing?
If you are the type A personality where you can consistently go on an aggressive approach because you have a short time frame to work with, and maybe you have one of two things: a history of successful dieting, or a coach, a reputable coach to guide you through the process that has ideally been there themselves. That's where the aggressive deficits can work. But there is argument for aggressive deficits in the obese community as well, as long as hunger's managed well, more often than not through medication. We can talk about that another day. But there's efficacy behind that as well. So there are different calls for it, but the issue is, again, like a large percentage of the population see that as the way to go, the path. So I have to go super fucking restrictive, which in a way you could class as optimal because we know it's going to fucking work, but it's not going to work a long time based on your responses, your hormonal environment, your actual environment, your habits, your decisions, your behaviors. Those things have to be taken into account as well. But as we've experienced through many, many clients, there are some people that you can just give them that boot camp instructor style approach and it works for them, keeps it on track, but it's not for everyone.
I'm going to go in a little bit of the pro-aggressive diet side of this argument.
Sweet.
And I think it's because we've overcorrected. I think we've gone through, as you said, so many people think that was the way forward. There were so many transformation companies and so many coaches giving these aggressive diets that now we see coaches all the time, like coaches with, I agree, also add zero results. Talk about like, oh, these things are terrible, these things are bad, you've got to go on a small deficit. And I think there are two very specific places where low-calorie dieting is the right approach. So the second one, I'm going to come back to the first one. The second one is, like you said, it's the type A personality that's got a short time frame. I would reword that in the sense, not reword it, because I think your points are absolutely valid, but I in my interpretation of that is someone's health markers in a good place where they're healthy enough to push hard. They have a short time frame and a clear deadline of how long they're going to go for. So we're going to go for this short period of time, and then we're going to pull back. Aggressive to pull back. Totally fine with that. Sometimes you need to, right? But the other thing that people don't consider, people think that it is more sustainable to do a small deficit, find maintenance calories, and take 300 calories off with a beginner starting. Yeah. Here's my problem with that. Problem one. All we are doing as coaches is creating an educated guess. What if your guess is wrong and your client doesn't lose any weight in the first 3 weeks? Yeah. You've lost the buy-in. Problem number two, people suck at tracking. So they're going to underreport on calories. If they've only got a 300 calorie margin of error, they're going to go over the calories. So what you think about what's on paper, this is for on paper supposedly here, but what people say on paper, someone's calories and what they actually are different. So that if you went more aggressive, you have an argument then if they have 1,000 calories to fall in, then they're actually probably at the closer to that 500 calorie deficit than you're aiming for. Also, we've got to think of the fact that point three, the reason why I think a low calorie diet is good for a calorie diet is good for the start, is that most people's 3,000, 4,000 calories are off low volume, high calorie dense foods. If you now put them on 2,700 calories of high voluminous foods, they're probably going to get digestive upset. They're probably going to struggle to eat it, and they're going to feel like a failure. You're back to losing the buy-in, right? Yeah. And number four is that people don't appreciate when you're looking at research of sort of habit change. When you look at research of habit change, people underestimate how much momentum, or just don't even know, how much momentum plays a huge role in behavior change. If I could do something and it goes, oh my God, I've lost 3-4 kilos. Yeah, we know it's glycogen and water retention, but the client doesn't. And the client goes, oh my God, this works. So when you make further adjustments or tailor that deficit down to a more manageable level long term, they're more likely to stick to it because they believe in the process. Yeah. So I think for all of those reasons, and probably some I've forgotten off the top of my head now, I think starting people on a lower calorie approach is a good way. I also think it builds the foundations. So you can bring someone down to, if I'm just taking a normal diet and taking 300 calories off, the normal diet has no structure. If I bring it back to, okay, let's get protein target, let's get some vegetables, let's make sure you drink some water. If you can't fill it with loads of other stuff, it's easy to hit those because you have no other option. And then we can add stuff on top and build it around you, build your diet around you. Strike while you're motivated, get the foundation in place, and then tailor it as the motivation naturally drops off. You can make the diet easier, not harder. And I think starting low early on for most beginners is a good way, shape, or form. And I know I'm hammering this point home, but the argument that some people are going to say, well, but you'll lose muscle mass. They're a beginner. They're going to gain muscle mass no matter what you do. But also, how much muscle mass have they got to lose? Most of these people haven't set foot in the gym in their life. If I took you, Rob, I wouldn't put you in a 1,000 calorie deficit. I would put you in a smaller deficit because you probably track your calories or at least know roughly what you're on. You train hard. You have some muscle, lots of training experience. So I would need to fuel that session. If I'm fueling a training session that looks like you're bouncing on a bouncy castle, there's no point. That's my argument. That's my rant.
But that's true. Like, there's so many things to take out of that, right? In terms of, let's not forget, someone's exercise and recovery will be fueled by the excessive amount of fat that they're carrying. So the body's not automatically going to go, oh shit, well, he's in an aggressive deficit, we better burn all our protein. No, there's an excess of an easily accessible fuel that it's going to go to first. It's going to go to. You're not going to be losing muscle mass. You would go to your muscle mass if you have some to lose because it's easier to convert protein into glucose if you're doing high intensity than it is fat into glucose. But if you're consuming enough protein, it's going to go to the amino acids coming in through the diet, not to the ones on your biceps. Exactly. Yes, exactly. So that's the key thing there, if you're consuming enough protein. The other thing to remember is the biggest problem I see with with the very, very small deficit approach is the big argument they make is, well, doing it this way, you're not going to screw up your hormones, because if you go into an aggressive deficit, you're not going to have, I forget which ones, but the ones that produce your period, and your testosterone's going to plummet and all this. But if you're in that overweight category, if you're above 20%, your hormones are kind of fucked anyway. So by dropping into a lower body fat percentage through any method is actually going to create a better hormonal environment first, before you have to worry about entering the negative hormonal environment from being too lean or being in too deep of a deficit.
How fragile do coaches think people are? People's hormonal systems.
This is the problem. Everyone's too fucking soft. That's what we're talking about before we hit record. Everyone's too soft.
But no one's like, right. Here's another. I'm going to use another analogy here, right? And it doesn't have any thems in it this time, right? I always consider hormonal output like a race car, right? So you're the race car, and the fuel in your race car is your hormones, right? Cool. So you're racing around in this race car, and you don't all of a sudden just go around a corner and then all the petrol just evaporates in one go, and you go and streak through a hole. You will start to slow down. You'll hear a splutter or two. You'll feel a few engine groans. And you will just gradually, slowly come into a halt. If I took your calories tomorrow and took them to 500, right, you wouldn't just trash your thyroid. Otherwise, people fasting would fuck themselves over year round, right?
Yeah.
So it's people think when people are fragile, I'll give someone 1,200 calories, they're immediately going to lose their thyroid output. No, they're not. And you'd see things. You'd see a lack of energy. You see low body temperature. You'd see sluggishness and everything that you do. Way before it actually got to a point where it's a real problem. The problem is long-term low calorie, not the fact that, oh my god, you went from 1,201 calories to 1,199. That means you must now be fucked. Like, get real.
And let's not forget, this is why the industry's so soft. They're scared to put people into this realm because they've never been there themselves and they've never taken a client there themselves. You have to remember, in an aggressive deficit, you are likely to be using strategic refeeds. Whereas at the opposite end, which is going to make you feel better, which is going to, a little boost in hormones, etc. But the opposite end of the spectrum, the ones who are too scared to go there, it's, well, here's how you can lose weight while still eating the foods you love. That's a slow fucking approach. And again, once you buy into their program, you're not eating the foods you love. If you love fucking pizza and they're teaching you how to make it on a tortilla wrap, it's not fucking pizza, is it? There's nowhere near.
What's the lowest calories you've been on in a diet?
What's the lowest
calories you've been on in a diet?
I got told off by old management for going closer to 1,350.
1,100.
Oh, bruv. You got a lot fucking late. And this is why I didn't get late.
Yeah, this is 3-4 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And I just suck it up. Like, it's not. I had a strict goal. I wouldn't say I'm going to do 1,100 next week. Like, that's the smart way to die. Like, no, this is category 2 I was talking about. I had 3 weeks for a photo shoot. I wanted to get as lean as humanly possible. I wanted to be so scary you could probably see my kidneys through my thoracolumbar fascia. So it needed to be done. Yeah. So if you want to get Men's Health cover model lean, you kind of need to go through those periods. Otherwise, it's not realistic. Yeah. It's not a realistic goal now. So, and that doesn't mean you have to go as aggressive as that. But I'm just saying, like, if you think this is a comfortable goal, it isn't. And everybody would be walking around with a 6-pack if it was. Yeah. And I just think that the people, like, coaches need that wake-up call as much as clients. Like, as long as they're healthy, if you have a time frame and a strict deadline, and the guy has the desire, push. If you keep them on it for a year and you're not looking for symptoms that it's going, then you're an idiot. But if you are, you're not going to break somebody. It's like people not deadlifting because they're worried that the back's going to break, or I picked up a newspaper, my back went on. How heavy is the newspaper? We assume our clients are more fragile than they are. If clients want to push, you're doing a disservice by not pushing them. You just need to monitor it. Yeah.
This is a big problem with re-referencing the low carb, low calorie hacks and stupid things like that, is they're pushed by a majority of trainers who, again, are also pushing this slow method. So if you're going to take 200 calories away from someone, but also give them a ton of low carb, low calorie hacks, they're instantly going to go into a deeper deficit because you've given them a low calorie fucking option, which means somewhere else, if they've then got to hit that 200 calorie deficit target, whatever the hell, they're going to have to get more food in from somewhere else anyway, in which case, what was the fucking point of ever giving them these hacks? Just teach them how to eat real food the correct way. And even then, there's a time and a place for these hacks, and I don't think it's in the beginning stages of someone's diet in the fucking slightest.
They become less impactful if you do it early on. But I also think, from the coach's listener's perspective, right, if you're one of these guys who preach a slow, steady approach, then, okay, there's a market for that. But you need to be an expert at that. I had Tobias from Tobias Lifestyle on the podcast last week. Yeah. And he is a expert on habits. So he helps people overcome habits. So if you want to do the slow, steady approach, your market is people that have failed diets before, people that have emotional connections to food, and you need to be a master of psychology. You need to be able to help them slowly build towards those things. And if that is the case, then you are the slow, steady man, and I have all power to you. What I find is that a lot of slow, steady people are people that want to put a six-pack transformation on their profile, and are surprised why they don't get them. It's like, well, because you're not pushing the clients enough to get them. And I'm not saying that the way I do things is right for your business, but you need to understand what you want from your clients. If you want a slow, steady, I've lost 5 pounds, I've lost 10 kilos within 3 years, that's cool. That's a great thing. Like, anyone that's lost 10 kilos of a healthy is fantastic. Yeah. But understand your marketing's not going to look the way that RNT Fitness or Ultimate Performance or insert transformation company here is going to look. And if that's your niche, then fine. But don't try and think about, okay, what we'll do is week 1, we'll just tell you to have an omega-3 fish oil and do some breath work. And then week 2, we'll maybe add a thumb of protein with dinner. I'm like, if you want a transformation, it's got to be a push.
Oh, this one's been amazing. This has been fucking incredible. But you're fucking right. You're right. In terms of what people need, it's a calorie deficit. Multiple ways to get into it. But again, we're too worried about being lifestyle coaches. So yes, we're trying to put all these recovery methods in when people haven't even fucking trained hard. So let's quit that fucking bullshit. But there was a stat, I'm trying to find it because I took a screenshot. I thought it was really fucking relevant. Here we go. So in terms of people that were surveyed at the start of the year, I don't know the poll size. 62% of people had a goal to lose an average of 22 pounds in 2023. Right. So a decent amount of weight, but for a large percentage of people, it's certainly not going to be life changing either. Right. But 58% of those people recognize their weight loss goals as ambitious. Like, you're fucking kidding me. Over half of the people who have said they want to lose 22 pounds in 2023, over half of them think that's too ambitious. Means they have absolutely no idea what's possible when you are pushed correctly. Like, okay, the slow, steady approach, a lot of respect for it, right? I get it. I kind of see what you're trying to do, but I also think it's misguided. What we've seen people do in 12 weeks, 24 weeks, 36 weeks, 45 weeks, in under a year is nothing short of phenomenal. And a decent percentage of people can achieve that when they invest in the right coaching, when they follow the right methods, which includes different phases of nutrition and training. You're not going to get to, like I say, you're not going to get to what causes you to drop 5 pounds is not going to be the method that causes you to drop 50 pounds. It's not. There's going to be differences. So what is possible is not what I would class as ambitious. Not at all. But what we've seen people achieve in that initial conversation, we're not necessarily using the language of 6-pack or 52 kilos later. We're focusing on the first steps. Let's get you moving. Let's get you educated about your food. Let's learn how to deal with hunger and stress and focusing on your sleep, which is only going to have knock-on benefits to make those other things easier as well. Like, to think that these ideas are ambitious is... I'm never going to knock someone that takes 3 years to lose 10 kilos.
Absolutely not.
Never. Absolutely not. Mad fucking respect for you. But you could have done it faster. You could have. Of course you could have.
I think there's two things that's important for this with coaches. And I think the first one is that understanding that expectation management is one of the biggest skills you can have, right? And if you want big results, you need big actions. And your clients need to know this from the off. If you want big results, you're going to need to take big action. Yeah. If you want steady results, you can take steady actions. But you can't take steady results and get big. You can't take steady actions and get big results.
No.
So you need to set that groundwork of what do you and your client want? What do your client want? That's most important, not what you want. What does your client want? And what is the absolute non-negotiables of what they need to do to get there? I think you can be as flexible as you like on the approach, but you can never be flexible on the goals. If this is the amount of activity and this is the deficit we need, there's no wiggle room. But there is ultimate wiggle room in how we get to that point. And I see clients all the time pulling back. Oh, it's okay. Maybe you don't need to weigh yourself every day. Okay, maybe you can just have like a smaller deficit. And then you never tell them that the results are going to be compromised by doing that because they're just trying to be liked. And I'm like, look, you need big action. And at some point, you're going to hit a comfort zone wall, and you're going to fight this, and I'm going to push through it. Or we do slower, and we might not hit that wall, but understand that it'll be slower. I do not care which one you do. This is your journey. If this is a Harry Potter story, you are Harry, I am Dumbledore.
Yeah, but I think I'm 100%. I don't know if my earlier statement, that's the wrong word, made it look like I'm not a fan of the aggressive deficit at all, because most people I'm putting over 500 calories. Most people I'm putting over a 500 calorie deficit, because I know it fucking works, and I know we can still work with your lifestyle and your factors and things like that. What was the point I was going to make? But the slow strategy people, when they post a result, and again, I'm not going to knock anyone that loses 5 fucking pounds. I'm not. If you've lost something, or if you're at least trying, fair fucking play to you. But the big issue we've seen results, right? Like you've said, you wanted to get to the point where you wanted to get to the point where we could definitely tell if you were a biological male or female could you see your uterus popping through your fucking abs, right? But some people post their transformation of a female, and she's just lost a little bit of bloating. That's all it is. Probably
in 12 weeks, they've stepped back and they've held a newspaper.
Yeah, that too, right? But we've seen if a female starts making better nutritional choices and focuses on their sleep a little bit more and limits their stress a little bit more, without ever stepping on the scale, they should look a little bit different 12 weeks down the line, because bloating should have definitely subsided based on what they were eating and what their habits were beforehand. That's not a transformation, right? So you then look at the rest of the body and go, was not a transformation. There's a specific transformation, right? Okay, you've helped them in some way, shape or form, but that's certainly not the end fucking result. You can't tell me that
blowing your trumpet, or making us sound like we're amazing fat loss coaches. How many results have you got that are all right? Yeah, people lose 5-10 kilos and all sorts of things that are good. So as I was saying before, my electricity decided to completely blow off, hence why I look a little bit darker and grainier for people watching on YouTube, is like how many, without blowing our own trumpets, how many results you got that are good results, like, you know, like 5-10 kilos results that they will never be posted online. Not because they aren't good, they just aren't amazing.
Yeah, a larger percentage than my 20 to 30 kilo weight loss result clients. Much larger percentage.
And I think there needs to be that coaches need to have that sort of like understanding of what a result is. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't post success stories of people that feel amazing, but like I think just hold off sometimes, because all it does from a coaching perspective, sometimes it makes your business look average. And not every result has to be shredded six-pack, but every result has to be worth the investment that you're charging them. So if you charge for a very expensive high-ticket product, your results should show a high-ticket product, which means either a huge change in mentality or a huge change in visual appearance.
Massively so.
So to go...
Go. I was just
No, I was going to
not-
bring it back to boot camp.
I don't want to knock people too hard, but when all a coach posts is the most relevant, marketable weekly wins that their clients have achieved in their Instagram stories, rather than actually posting results, kind of shows you're not getting results. Granted, I love checking in. I do the same with my clients. What are some wins this week? What are some struggles? What do we need to work on? But let's celebrate your wins as well. But if that's all you fucking post, it kind of shows behind the scenes what's happening. Because if someone is looking at your business and they want to, like if I were to invest in another business coach that was going to get me to X amount of money per fucking month, and they could show me genuine results, cool. If all they ever showed me on the Instagram stories was a weekly check-in and people going, oh, yeah, I had a few more conversations this week. I got to bed on time. Energy's feeling pretty good. I'm not going to fucking invest in that geezer. I want to know, can he get me the fucking financial result I'm looking for? Not are his clients happy just tugging along in kind of mediocrity.
And this is what I'm not scratching at anyone that feels better. Like the aim essentially is we want people to feel better. But like, don't think that your clients are paying thousands of pounds to feel better. They would get a therapist. And you've got to show true tangible results. But going back to the topic, before we go and finish off with the hacks, I want to talk about something that there's an old school mentality now, and I think there's an argument for it to kind of be brought back. I'm going to tell you my story with it first, and that's the low carb boot camp. So for people who don't know what the low carb boot camp is, it's a Charles Poliquin thing where you do 2 to 4 weeks of no carbs, just vegetables, protein targets. And then once you've done that, you start reintroducing carbohydrates. The aim here is you remove a lot of common inflammatory foods, you remove inflammation, and then you almost, like what Charles would call it, earn your carbs. And our old company used to do it quite literally with people, right? Got great results. And then I left and I was like, I'm not going to do that. I don't need it. You don't need it. You can lose weight with carbohydrates. And I very much agree you can. And I look now and I think, do you know what? I think there's a place for it with a beginner client. I think a lot of people spend too long eating foods that don't agree with our digestive system, which is always going to mean that we're not absorbing as much of the food as we want to, which is going to hinder muscle building results, which is going to hinder fat loss results. We're always getting an inflammatory response. I also think it separates the men from the boys and the theys from the thems to have 2 weeks where it is going to be hard. If someone can follow a low carb boot camp for 2 weeks, they will follow anything. And you know the people that are ready to go. And the people are struggling with that, you can pull them back. You know that's the slow and steady client. Whereas the client of just a low carb boot camp, I think it's they're ready to go. They're ready to rock and roll. And as we spoke about with the low calorie thing, it builds the foundation. So if you're only going to eat protein and vegetables, you always get your protein target. You always get enough vegetables. And then I can put a bowl of rice or a bagel on top of that. And awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think of the low carb boot camp?
It rewires so many other things. Take away just fat, well, not even fat loss. Take away weight loss from the potential result of a low carb boot camp. But what it does for you in terms of your behaviors and your choices and your education of how you can still feed yourself in a day without the carbs and the inflammatory foods you've been eating and still feel fucking amazing. But it also takes away the decision. Well, it takes away the power that these junky carbs you've been eating has over you, or that habit has over you. This is the start of behavioral change by going on that low carb boot camp. Some people struggle with it a lot longer, a lot harder than others. Maybe there's the argument that those people need it for 4 weeks rather than 2 weeks. Maybe. But in terms of what it can do in reminding you of what decent food actually fucking tastes like as well. I will never forget this client, Ahmed. I'll never forget two clients, Ahmed and Robb. Ahmed was already pretty fucking lean. But to get to the 6.9% that he ended up at, he's not eating a lot of food, right? So there came a point where we're like, his energy was shit. His digestion had gone. So it's time for a refeed, right? And I told him, using the old school methods, go have a bowl of oats with banana in it, with syrup in it, when everyone else would, their refeed is pizza day and eating the food you love. Like, we kept it very, very strict. He came in the next morning like a new man, and he went, that was the most beautiful bowl of porridge I've ever had. And at first I was worried. I was like, shit, what else did he put in this bowl of porridge? He had it exactly measured out as I told him to. And he came in, energy through the fucking roof, feeling amazing. But in terms of reminding himself that all it took was oats, honey or syrup, whatever it was we went for, and a bit of fruit. And it was tasty and satisfying and fucking amazing when he hadn't had it for X amount of time. And I had another client, Robb, who calorie counting, tracking, all this stuff was completely alien and new to him. And it took him a little bit longer to get the handle of it. What he can do now is absolutely phenomenal. We don't need to track calories. He just nails it on site. It's incredible through the time and the education that he's invested in it. There was a moment where he kind of got caught up with some of the things of what other people were saying, like about fruit and sugar and glucose and fructose. And I came across the fact that he wasn't eating fruit. I was like, mate, you can have 2 servings of fruit a day easily. You can have fucking more if you want. And again, like, I saw him like the next week, whatever it was, and all he had done was started eating blueberries every single day. And the joy he was experiencing from, oh my God, they were the nicest blueberries ever. Well, they weren't. They were just blueberries. They taste the same all fucking year round. You've just reminded yourself what actual decent, nutritional, sweet food tastes like. So you can easily get the same satisfaction without having to go for these carbs. And we've taught you that just by eliminating them for a short period of time. That was one of the biggest pros to that low carb boot camp that I ever experienced with clients, was when they actually realized, well, I can add in normal carbs and they taste fucking amazing. And what you can do with protein and veg sources to make a decent, tasty fucking meal that is going to keep you satisfied and full and still provide you with energy for training and day-to-day life and all that stuff as well. I'm still a big advocate of it. I don't give it to everyone, but I still give it. I still use it.
I think as well, it's easy, right? You know, if someone's new to calorie tracking, just go, okay, protein and vegetables, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They're going to get in a deficit. And it's not, they don't have to think about it when they want to meal out.
Easily.
It's this easy thing to do, right? And I think as long as you said, as long as you come out of this at some point, you don't make them fear carbs, I think it's a sort of good option here. What's the biggest mistake? Like, we're going to do one each. What's the biggest mistake you feel people make when they go low carb? If anyone wants to try this, what's the biggest mistake people make?
One of the biggest is, well, two of them is, again, they might then get in this mentality of let's try and implement some of these processed food sources that are ultra low calorie and low carb, because that will make it feel like, no, we've got to, this is like I don't want to say go in the trenches, but I'm going to say it. This is going into the trenches for a little bit. There's going to be some hard work. Let's use this short period of time for some actual effort and hard work, right? You're not going to suffer. You're not going to die. So then adding all these things into their diet, they're just going to cause as much inflammation and water retention and whatever else anyway, and not be as satisfying. And potentially, mess around with your sweet tooth as well. But the other one is then going super low carb on everything else and thinking it's just protein. Like, you could, as Poliquin has said in articles before, that you could just eat cod and veg on the old school fish and a rice cake, but without the rice cake. Where's your fucking fat coming from, You've still got to get, like, you'll have targets to follow. If you want to do this low carb boot camp properly, you'll have targets to follow. And it doesn't mean you're going to be eating tiny fucking portions of food. Like, your plate should be full of veg. Full.
I think the biggest mistake that I see people make, because one of the things people go low carb and they immediately come in and go, I'm lacking energy. And my thing with this is that when people think carbs are energy, they're not wrong, but they don't truly understand it. So carbs being energy, they're the fuel training. Like, there's glucose to fuel high intensity activity. It's not necessarily mental energy. And a lot of times when people like carbs actually release serotonin and calm you down. So people go on a local diet and think, oh, it's the carbs the reason why I feel tired. What's normally happens is that someone's also taken sodium, because salt's got such a bad rap from the medical community, where the problem often is if someone's eaten uber processed food, you can have tons of sodium and that could cause issues with the heart. But it's often a lack of potassium. These people who eat lots of processed food often eat very little vegetables, don't really have much in the way of electrolytes, aren't very well hydrated. So if you go low carb, make sure you're salting your meals. I promise you will feel better doing it.
Massively so. Huge thing. I think that was... Maybe it was an old Polican thing. I think that's a bit of the thing people have to watch. And there was another... it was Lyle McDonald. His... What was it called? Not Extreme Fat Loss.
Ultimate Diet 2.0? Or there was the Aggressive Extreme Diet Handbook or something like that?
Something like that. And
the scientific approach to crash dieting.
Close. I think it was literally just like the Extreme Fat Loss guy or something stupid like that. No, it was literally like a 4 to 5 day protocol, something like that.
Ultimate Diet 2.0 was 5 days, low calorie, low carb, low fat. And then it was 2 mega refeed days. So
this was another very, very small book that was a subset of that protocol for a rapid fat loss guide, whatever the fuck. What do you call your books, Lyle? Come on.
Rapid Fat Loss Handbook.
Rapid Fat Loss Handbook. So it was like a subset of the Ultimate Diet, but going deeper into a very, very short phase, which was essentially a very, very low carb boot camp. Pretty much a low fat boot camp as well. And there was like an entire chapter dedicated to sodium and potassium balance. Because if there was anything that was going to fuck you up, it was that. It wasn't the lack of carbs. It wasn't the lack of fat. It was the imbalance in your sodium and potassium levels you'd suddenly experience that week. So making sure that you took in the right... I swear there was amounts as well. I swear he put amounts in there. Taking the right amount of sodium and potassium at the same time to maintain that balance for blood pressure, making sure you're not fainting, shit like that. All these other things we need these vital minerals for that a certain subsect of the health industry is saying don't have salt. And obviously there's multiple types of salt as well. It's so fucking important, which is why you can't just do these things on your own. You can't just hear low carb boot camp. What's that? 2 weeks low carb. Right, cool. I'm going to do that. This is why coaching is so important with people who have been there before, because there are extra little things you've got to worry about that can screw your progress up quite badly.
That's so going on to the little things and giving a little bit of our coaching wisdom to people. Let's finish off with we've both been on diets, we've both gotten lean, we've both done photo shoots. Let's go one at a time. Name me something that's kept you going. This can be relatively quick fire, but one thing that you found has been a game changer, a little hack for your diet.
The simplest fucking thing in the world, which some people are going to argue because it's processed food. Cheese slices, American cheese slices, was a surprisingly easy and delicious way to add volume and enjoyment to my meal with very, very, very low calories added to it. I fucking lived off them almost.
I'm going to agree on that, and I'm also going to I'm going to piggyback on yours because you reminded me of one that I hadn't got on my list. The low calorie, like the 5 to 10 calorie dairy lead triangles, and the roots they're not they're low calorie, but they're not quite low calorie for the tininess of them. But you know what they were really good at is if I had like a big gap between a meal and I just need something just to tie me over, not fill me up, but just keep me going until dinner.
Yeah,
that was great. Just one of them, and it was just perfect. It just kept me. I was still hungry, but it just took the edge off it.
Yeah. But to be fair, I said I'd live off them. I'd live off them because they're delicious, but I know there's not a lot of actual nutrition in there. Maybe no more than 2 per day, and I'd be having it with breakfast on top of my eggs more often than not. But such a simple thing, and again, it turned what could have been a potentially boring meal with my mindset at the time into something so fucking enjoyable. And you feel like you're being a little bit naughty, and you're not really. Oh yeah, 2 fucking cheese slices, it's not going to kill anyone.
I've grouped mine. So I've got 4 categories. I'm going to just list a few off. So my first one is the simplicity hacks. So how do you make your diet easy? This is if you get caught out and you've not got your prep food, or you want to be able to be accurate with your diet, but you don't want to weigh everything. So and in the list, I've got packet meats. It's like Marks & Spencer's packet chicken.
Yes.
Muller rice.
Huge.
Bagels, and serene loaves. Now, what all these do is the packet meat's obviously just protein, right? And you can do it by what's on there. And all the other options are what I found, because generally my diet, I tend to respond well with higher carb, lower fat diets for the most part, unless I want to get over some digestive issues.
Right.
So I've done a lot of research when I was in the UK dieting of what options could I have that were high in carbs but low in fats. So I found all these things that I could have if I wanted to add carbs to my diets, and I found these things I wanted to do to add fats into my diet without any carbs. And I think Muller rices, nice, sweet, they were always came in a uniform size, same with the little serene loaves, same with a bagel, and it was just simple and effective. Any simplicity hacks that you have, such to piggyback on mine before we go on to your next one? Anything you found that's helped you keep things simple?
Certainly in terms of like that meal prepping right there. The good thing in there is you've gone for a majority of low fat sources. Now, based on multiple reasons, one of which you said you seem to do better on it. But again, when people suffer with their meal prep or have to eat out and they go to make these, impulse decisions in M&S or Sainsbury's, whatever, they're going for the thing that also includes a lot of fucking fat.
It's easy to overeat on fats.
Exactly. So therefore, you could have gone for something protein and carby and ended up with less calories overall if you had gone for the lower fat sources. So there is definitely advocacy for choosing the protein and carbs when you're out rather than trying to keep it all low carb. That could be a losing battle. In terms of simplicity hacks, it's a good one. Mate, for me, it kind of comes under simplicity. But flavour is one of the biggest hacks you can make on a fucking diet. And you can achieve that with little to zero calories through the use of herbs, spices, or my go-to saviours, whether I'm dieting or not, hot sauce and salsa. Hot sauce and salsa makes any meal taste fucking amazing with negligible calories added to them. Like probably less than 10, right? So in which case it's not going to do any damage whatsoever. And I'm going to enjoy the hell out of that meal. If I accidentally make it boring, I'm not going to want to eat it. In which case then those cravings come in, not because you're experiencing low nutrition or anything, it's because you've not enjoyed the thing that you've eaten and you need some element of comfort coming from it as well. It's the simplest fucking thing in the world, is put some goddamn flavour in your food.
Yeah, my flavour snacks was one of mine, and I had my flavour snacks. I had obviously everyone says herbs and spices, right? Yeah, and in my group, I have in my little book that I send to people, I have a make your own sort of spice mix and keep it easy.
Love it.
Things I like. Here's the two I think I would consider hacks. One is not as good as the other. The first one is horseradish. Low calorie, flavoursome, but you can't have too much of it. So it's not going to work well on a bland chicken breast if you're going to have white meat, right? Because you can't put a lot on it unless it'll go up your nose and you'll start crying. But Frank's buffalo sauce, not Frank's hot sauce, because the problem with Frank's hot sauce is if it's Tabasco-y, you can't put much on. But the buffalo, you can drench your chicken in.
Legit the best fucking sauce on the market. By far, mate. Yeah.
What's your next one?
So what did I say? So the two slices of the flavour. And again, don't underestimate the sheer size of what a low-calorie meal can look like. In terms of chucking a proper salad together, which the word sounds boring, but if you chuck a proper salad of the ingredients you actually fucking enjoy with a decent amount of protein on there, it can keep you so fucking full that you almost barely fucking eat it as well. And that could be, and you get tons of fucking nutrition in there, and you're satisfied. So when people go for these piddly fucking salads, or they grab a salad from prep, this is where things start going wrong. If you took the time to make that yourself, in terms of how low calorie that can be, but massive, is mind blowing.
It's like you're setting me up for my categories, because you set me up for the flavour one, you set me up for the volume hacks. So my first one in the volume hack section was veg over salad. I see a lot of people getting leaves and going, why am I still so hungry? It's throw something in there, right? But I appreciate that's a boring one. So I want to add another couple of suggestions. And the first one is melon. Now, I'll admit, this is not my diet hack. I'm going to credit a guy called James Chester, who I work with for this. I personally don't particularly like melon. But it's so voluminous. If you want something that's going to have hardly any calories and it's going to be massive, that's going to be good. And my last one on that volume section is jumping into the bodybuilding world, and it's cream of rice.
Yeah.
Because I know everyone got into the cream of rice thing. But I tell you what, you put a couple of scoops of protein powder, so a couple of scoops of cream of rice, right? I get it, it's high carb, maybe it's not for everybody there, but it's a low fat, high carb option, and you can make a bowl of oats, and it's all right, it's filling. You can make a bowl of cream of rice, and it's like 3 times the size.
It's crazy.
I used to have a protein powder. Well, I still do have a protein powder, right? I'm going to show it on camera to showcase my mate Ant at Shapeshifters. And it's greens, it's fibre, it's a vegan protein powder, and it's filling as it is. I used to put that, but the Banoffee one is really nice, but because of the greens, it is green. And I used to make cream of rice with it. So you got this already voluminous protein powder in this voluminous cream of rice. It was, and I used to call it, I'm sort of like eating Hulk fluff.
That's amazing. Mate, the cream of rice, shout out to Alex Gates. Alex Gates is the cream of rice king. And that guy tried to get me on it so much, but I just prefer the consistency of oats. That's the only reason I don't have it. But again, in terms of ease and flavour and how macro friendly it is and the amount you end up, wow. Like,
off topic,
worth considering.
Because he's friend of the show. How good does Alex Gates look?
It's my new man crush. Well, he was always my man crush anyway.
God.
It looks
and
phenomenal, right?
What is better? The fact it's not just how good he looks; it's how hard he has worked, how small he was, how long and consistent he was over years. If anyone deserves a physique, it's him. Like,
massively.
I was thinking, like, generally, and shout out to Alex if you're listening to this, I might give you a message. At one point, I'm going to get myself a coach again. And, like, Alex, you know, he's not as well known as he should be. He's a great coach. He has skyrocketed into my top 5 people I might reach out to coach me, right? And I've been in the game longer than him, but I want to listen to him just because leading from the front.
Mate, exactly. That he is the proof of what you can achieve when you take control of every single variable. When you don't leave anything to chance and you invest in multiple coaches, not all at the same time, but he's gone across a couple of different coaches, and you track everything meticulously, and you still have room to enjoy your life and go on holiday. And as he's quite open about, there's been assistance in there as well, but that doesn't equal a fucking result. You do not take steroids willy-nilly to sound like Ricky Gervais, sound like David.
He put
Brent.
a lot of muscle on before assistance, though.
Massively so. Massively.
He did it right.
Over a couple of years before
he did it right. He got to the point where he hit the wall and he had the choice to make, and he was consistent with everything else. That choice was a positive. Right?
Yeah.
It's not the guy who doesn't want to diet that thinks if I take a bit of tren and everything will be easy.
Yeah.
He is building muscle done right. Huge shout out. Respect to Alex Gates.
Massively so. I know we don't want this episode to be the Alex Gates appreciation episode, but at the same time, you have to remember, like, no one can say anything.
If it equals the balance, he's a lanky motherfucker, isn't he?
It's from the north as well. I know you are, but he's from further north as well. But
I'm in the Midlands, boy.
He can't dance either. I don't know what else he can throw at him.
Neither can I. So
he was like well over 6 foot. Maybe I can't remember his exact height, but obviously made me look like a dwarf, which is not that hard. But super long levers, ridiculously long levers across every fucking angle of his body. That makes it tough. That makes it really fucking tough to achieve the muscle gain that you could achieve. So he put on a ton of fucking muscle without ever getting assistance, without injecting anything ever or taking anything orally, which shows he did what was right for his body. He sought expert advice, he followed it, and he stuck to it. Doesn't mean he had an easy ride in the fucking slightest. And he didn't jump from plan to plan, and he didn't follow stupid, and he went aggressive when needed, and he maintained when needed, and he bulked when needed, and he dropped down again. And it just shows to get to end up looking like Alex Gates. It's a journey. It's a fucking journey. It's not a case of, we just took steroids and look at him now. Look at most of the guys at the gym who are taking steroids and look like shit. You look at Alex Gage, looks fucking phenomenal. It's like an Adonis. He's literally my man crush. And if he fucking competes, he does get round to competing.
And to take this away from the Alex Gates Appreciation Show, Alex Pro Coach is the guy if you want to follow him, find it for yourself. And if anyone wants a clarification why Rob says it's hard with long levers, one, not many lifts fit you when you have long levers, but also when you're well over 6 foot, you can put the same muscle on as someone that's 5'5", and you look like you've put on none. So he's had to put a lot of muscle on to look this much bigger. But my next category, going back to the hacks.
Sorry, Alex, we're off.
Protein hacks, right? I don't really like protein hacks because I generally think most people, and you agree with this, I know you do because you better posted it. Protein hacks are people that never look at a meat aisle. But here's one game-changing. And I said about simplicity. I almost went in the simplicity hacks. Is Marks & Spencer's low-fat bacon medallions. Not only does it give you the taste of bacon, not only is it a thing that you don't need to add sauce for it to taste good, but you could take less than 5 minutes to cook, and per packet you get 50 grams of protein.
Mate, amazing. And you got it in the meat aisle. You didn't have to go down the weird fucking health food aisle.
No fade yogurt in sight.
Mate, that's incredible. And again, something as simple as that. How good does bacon taste? It tastes incredible. And you don't need a lot of it. Yeah. You don't need to cook the whole packet to instantly add to a meal as well. It's an amazing hack. That's a protein hack. That's what it is. Not trying to make your own protein icing out of powdered peanut butter and protein powder and a ton of other fucking dry ingredients. It's never going to taste as good as real icing.
That makes diet harder because you've taken away food volume.
Yes, massively. Massively so. So, yeah, 100%. I'm going to add the simplest thing in the world, which is going to make me sound like Andrew Tate. Carbonated water. Carbonated water. I drink it all the time anyway because I don't like drinking peasant water. But at the same time, it does fucking, we talk about hydration, but carbon, for some reason, makes it feel like there's extra stuff going in there. It's very, very satisfying in terms of dropping hunger kind of rapidly, very fucking quick. It's something to consider. If you don't like it, I don't know, maybe you're just being a bit weak. That's the only thing. I don't like bubbles in my water. Okay, well, we won't send you to war in the World War III then, because you're too. You can't handle bubbles in your water. Yeah, mate, that's good. I drink it all the time anyway, but when I'm really, really on diet, man, I'm making sure that I've got that handy all the time. If like when I'm in the environment when I know hunger's going to creep in. That was a big one for me.
My last category, and I have 3 in here. One of them is more like this, and one of them is our completely off-topic ones. I classify as the other category. Okay. So the first one is things like a Diet Coke. Now, this doesn't work for me, right? This doesn't work for me at all, because I probably get through about 7 or 8 cans a day at least anyway, because I am obsessed and I love it. But if you're not a big Diet Coke drinker, if you're a water drinker or whatever, adding in that when you get to the end stage of a diet can really just take the edge off stuff.
Yeah.
So, and I would say, like, if you're a smart person, if you're someone you're not as addicted as me, it's good to leave them out as long as you can and then just throw that in to help you out.
Again, that's
gum.
Yes. Yeah. Big, big difference there. Again, if it's something you're currently doing all the time, when you don't necessarily need to, take that out of the equation for a decent amount of time. How good it will taste when you add it back in later down the line. How much actual satisfaction you'll get rather than just a little bit of instant gratification with what you do it now. Because that's what I do now. I say to clients, I grab a Coke Zero when, the sweet tooth's kicking in. I drink it all the fucking time. I drink it probably more than water, which is probably not that good. But not to do with sweet. But if I were to go off it for a while, my God, how good it would. Well, could backfire. I could eat it, drink it later down the line and go, this is actually shit. Why have I been drinking this all this time? But I don't think that will be the case because it tastes amazing. Of course it tastes amazing. So I think anyone who says they don't like the taste of it is lying to try and, I don't know, hide pain in their life. So don't discount knocking these things on the head for a little bit for greater effect later down the line. Massively.
My last 2.
We don't cut things out anymore because, again, we're too soft.
Yeah, my 2 off-topic ones. The first one is being busy being like simple things. People want hacks, they want food stuff. Be busy, but busy with work. Go for a walk.
Yeah.
I saw a great video recently from a guy called What I've Learned. It's a great YouTube channel for people that should go and shout out to him. And he does all these little personal experiments. He backs them by science. These great ones about sort of like why red meat isn't that bad for you, and climate change stuff and fasting stuff. He's very much a health nut, and he tries these things himself and tells you. And he did one where it was like a 5-day fast whilst trying to do something like 50,000 steps a day or something like this. And he said he found it easier. And he showed like how much fat he could lose in a short period of time. And he's like, his hunger was nowhere near as bad as it was when he did it before, because he just kept busy doing stuff.
Amazing.
But the other side of that, and this is my final one, is while being busy and active is a massive benefit to keep you not thinking about food, my last one is do not be a silly dick with training volume. Because a lot of things, and this is more for the coach out there, where you every phase increase in training volume because I increase density in my workouts. But after a while, you're just making your, one, something you can't recover from, and B, you're just making hunger go through the roof. Towards the end of a diet, I pull sets away, do the minimum effective dose of the big lifts, and maybe spend a bit more time doing arms and shoulders and stuff that's not going to impact recovery and appetite. But if I've gone from 3 sets of deadlifts to 4 sets of deadlifts to 5, I'm going to be so hungry finishing that training session, just scale back for those last 4 weeks. And you'll be amazed at how much easier it is from an energy perspective, from a hunger perspective, from a craving perspective, if you just actually match your output with what you physically can do.
Massively so. It kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about the things that are causing the cravings. There's so many things that affect it. It's not just your body's crying out for something that's missing because you've been eating 12 donuts a week for the last 10 years, whatever. It's anything can push that needle. Even if you're being really, really fucking strict and still eating the right amount of protein and still getting veg in and water and sleeping right and all these things that would help curb those cravings, your training volume alone can suddenly shift that through the fucking roof, really, if you're not careful. So it's definitely something to consider if people not thinking about it.
So to call this episode, to bring this episode to a close, I'm going to end this in a slightly different way than I normally end the episodes for you. Normally we do a plug for whichever count you're willing to do. And I'm not saying if you adamantly want to plug something there, you can. But I think our shows, I particularly get a bit of a loyal audience. And if you are the first time here, go back and watch one of the other shows with Rob, and he will tell you where to find him all the time. But I'm ending slightly something different today, because we decided on a topic for next week's show. And I also remembered why something that I haven't done yet. And I think it's perfect. So next week's topic, there's a little bit of a teaser for next week. Well, whether it will be next week or not, because I've got a few to do, I'm going to put these out in different orders. But when you see this title, know how this is going to start, and come and watch it on YouTube. Next week's topic, we were going to have the episode called Is Veganism an Agenda? And we're going to talk about the push to a more plant-based diet, and is there ulterior motives to this? We're going to slightly put on our tinfoil hats, but keep within our realm and scope of practice. But also, I remember losing a World Cup bet to Rob last year, where I promised on the Liver King episode that I would eat raw liver live on the show. I think this has got to be the episode, hasn't it?
It's got to be, lad. It's got to be. It's perfect for it. I'll come in with protein, with a lunchbox full of protein hacks, and you can eat your raw liver.
If you put a reminder on your phone when we click record, when we finish the recording, to message me the day before on Wednesday next week and say, Simon, remember to get your raw liver ready. That's the reason why I haven't done it so much, because I keep forgetting to buy it. Not because I'm trying to avoid it. I would forget, So, that's next week. So if you're watching this point, next time when this topic comes in, go and watch it on YouTube. But Rob, pleasure as always, man. And I'll see you with raw liver in hand next week.
Let's do it.